Travis Wayne Goodsell. Some year ago, I saw an LDS Critic video where they debated Kwaku. It was a live streamed event, and Kwaku brought up in his argument, I can't remember what it was for, I really wasn't paying that much attention. He made reference to the Homer's Odyssey that talks about the Trojan horse and the Trojan War, and says that it wasn't real. Oops. Well, Kwaku failed to have watched the historical archives of the literal history of the event that had Brad Pitt. Galaxy Quest. Nobody catches my humor? Are you still Mormon, Kwaku? You were advanced up the ranks of the secret band of apologists, and then were faced with another debate in which you were forced to acknowledge that Brigham Young's a racist. So are you still a Mormon? And it's a sad condition when people realize the church is false and they refuse to leave. But the Trojan horse, used in the Trojan War by the Greeks to rescue Diane Kruger from the mean, awful guy that had a crush on her. Do I look pregnant? She is a national treasure. Involves a military strategy of infiltrating the enemy through deception. That they bring the enemy in. And then when they are lulled into a carnal sense of security, the military personnel come out of the Trojan horse and destroy the city. In doing church history research, you may have caught on to certain props in the background of videos at the end of last year. For which the church had had enough of me and have literally destroyed me. The court action is stayed, or stay, I don't know if there's I submitted some very serious crimes that were being committed against me in this case, and it's the judge's order, oath of office, to refer them for investigation for criminal action. I hope that's the case. She has not notified either of us that that's what she's doing, because she's supposed to grant a default judgment for what the lawyer did on the 20th. He committed a crime in the court with the filing that he made that morning. Heber C. Kimball. In 1823, Kimball received the 3 craft degrees of Freemasonry. Is anybody bothering to learn any of this? You have to know the difference between current and what was practiced back then. Because there's a certain incident that Heber refers to here, that things had to change in order to get people back into the group. In the lodge at Victor Flats, Ontario County, New York. He's calling himself a Master Mason. That's the 3rd degree. But you then have to figure out, okay, well, which rite was he? Was he York Rites? Was he Scottish Rite? In 1824, he sent a petition to the chapter at Canandaigua, New York. Have you been looking at maps? Are you doing the research, or are you just trusting what other people tell you to think and believe and feel? I hope you are not brainwashed into having other people dictate your life. That you are actually doing the research yourself, fact-checking people. To receive the York Rite degree, there's an error, of Royal Arc Masonry. Because York Rites are no longer degrees after the 3rd degree of Master Mason. Only the Scottish Rite are 33 degrees, 33 being the honorary. And then depending on where you were located at the time determines which Scottish Rites you were and what titles of the different degrees. His petition was accepted. Well, that's cool. But why did he go all the way to Canandaigua, New York for it? Why didn't he do it at Victor Flats? Victor Flats was in the Scottish Rite area. What's he doing going to York Rite area? See, these are things you need to know. His petition to receive the Royal Arc Masonry, did I mention that? That's what his petition was for. Do you know where that is in the ranking of the York Rite? Number 7. So he's skipping from 3 petitioning to go all the way up to 7, skipping all the ones in between. His petition was accepted. Huh. So there must be a documentation of it, right? Although, there's the but, as he reported, anti-Masons had burned down the chapter building in Canandaigua. Those of you who have been with me this whole time and have been watching all my videos and are well educated and up to date on all this information, this is all boring, right? The thousands upon tens of thousands upon hundreds of thousands of subscribers who watch me faithfully to learn and to study, right? Who was the Master Mason in Canandaigua? What is going on with this anti-Mason movement that caused the burning down? Well, the easier one to find would be anti-Masons. It's got the link there. You'd find out about William Morgan in 1826 in Canandaigua, New York. William Morgan swore an oath saying that he had received the degrees of Masonry up to the 6th one before Royal Arc, and therefore was granted Royal Arc. Well, this is an interesting coincidence. Canandaigua, New York. William Morgan lived in Batavia. That's where his home was. He had contracted with the press in Batavia to work on books about the threat of Freemasons to the United States of America. He never finished. The Batavian Press published a book with his name, which was all about the first 3 degrees of Masonry that everybody knew. It wasn't any shocking reveal. Heber C. Kimball had that book in his possession, though. So who was the Master Mason in Canandaigua, New York? Is it somebody familiar? Why doesn't Heber mention him if it is somebody familiar? Why won't the church list the just had lunch. List the link so that we can easily figure it out. It's Joseph Smith Sr. And we know this because the records were preserved. Heber says they weren't. Heber was not approved. Not in the records. Heber is lying to us. Why? Well, he's Scottish Rite. And he's disclosing here that he knew all about who was to blame for burning down his temple with the rescue of William Morgan. Because William Morgan, instead of being at home, was in Canandaigua working on the books with the Master Mason of Canandaigua Lodge, Joseph Smith Sr., about the threat of the Scottish Rite on America. The method that they used was infiltration. They infiltrated the Scottish Rite Lodge in the War of 1812. And William Morgan had found out about their whole plans. And their plans were to use the Bible and the prophecies of the latter days to coordinate their attack when they come to pass. So the book of Revelation has star dates. Revelation 12, Revelation 19. And anybody who knows how to predict the future with signs in the heavens can figure this out. I did. I've got the key. It's called stellarium.org. I also have my Urim and Thummim that I keep in my pocket the whole time. I've told you about them. When we had home teachers, my home teachers had gone on a cruise to China and Australia, and they picked it up in a port on Australia or somewhere around there. Got them for me. And so this was the tactic of this enemy that was going to destroy America. They were going to infiltrate all the different groups, political parties, and yeah, the Book of Mormon tells us all about it. It tells us about their infiltration of a secret criminal organization that would infiltrate the government to take it over. They also talked about taking over a religion as well. Gadianton Band, and the Great and Abominable Church, using what is already known from history as the Gadianton Band, Nicolaitan Band as Revelation calls it. Joseph Smith in 117 says that Newell K. Whitney was a part of this secret combination. That's interesting. He's the one that had a home in Adam on Diamond. As 116 I exposed as being a fraud because of the document that was preserved. And the church, rather than having experts examine the document to reveal that section 116 was added at a later time with different ink, they keep it all a secret. Why would they do that? Why would they lie? Why would they hide the truth from us? Well, there was a major truth that I had come out, had a little thumbnail for pictures, thanks to one of my subscribers. It's 19 July 1840B from the Joseph Smith Papers. It's available for all of us to research, so we may know. And so he's talking about, Joseph Smith, talking about his prophecy parable that he gave in section 101, starting in verse 43, referring to verse 51 about the enemy coming as a thief in the night. And I don't know why they put one blank line, because we know from section 101 what's supposed to go in there. But Joseph Smith then outs the enemy. He outs who is going to betray him and who is going to have him murdered. He uses the Bible again in Mark chapter 14, referring to the Last Supper, in which Joseph Smith was playing the role of Jesus, and his betrayers, he uses the plural, would represent the 12 disciples or 12 apostles of Jesus. So who would that be? If Joseph Smith is Jesus, who would be the 12 of Joseph Smith? Yeah, Brigham Young with Heber C. Kimball. And so who was in Carthage jail with Joseph Smith? John Taylor, Willard Richards of Brigham Young's 12. And so the whole plot, when Heber found out, was to infiltrate Joseph's church. Heber and Brigham Young went out and converted the Scottish Rites who wanted revenge on whoever caused this. And Heber says, I know exactly who did it, guys. I found them. They produced the book called the Book of Mormon. Mor for Morgan, Mon for Thomas Monroe, who was found dead in the lake by Niagara. And it's uncertain as to whether he was murdered or what happened, but it was exposed because people originally thought that that was William Morgan's body, but Thomas Monroe's wife identified the body, saying those aren't the clothes those aren't his clothes. So they switched Morgan's clothes onto Monroe's clothes, because Monroe was found dead. We don't know what happened. The sheriff who hired a tracker was punished more severely than the 3 Freemasons who were put on trial. Go figure. Why would the sheriff be in trouble for doing his job? But that's a long story. I found a descendant of Thomas Morgan. Apparently he became a banana plantation owner down in Honduras. So, Adamondiaman became the headquarters of this secret band that had infiltrated Joseph's organization. They rose up in populace and in popularity, disseminating through the different groups. They even had John C. Bennett, who had reached up to Joseph Smith's presidency, and Benjamin Franklin Johnson, who's the one I've been telling you about lately, went to Adamondiaman, the headquarters of the Danites, and I told you how you can distinguish the difference. It's not Amen, it's A-W-M-A-N. But you can see where tampering occurred, as they didn't quite cover up their tracks as well as they should have. They didn't take into account Google search in the latter days and the church collecting the documents for the Joseph Smith papers. Neither did the church realize that they would need to have the cover-up continue. They keep the Book of Mormon, they keep the Doctrine and Covenants, they replaced some of the Doctrine and Covenants, like monogamy, got to get rid of that. And yes, they blamed Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith was a polygamist, Joseph Smith can't translate, Joseph Smith's a criminal, Joseph Smith's a witch, etc., etc., so that they can justify their crimes. They were the ones committing all these crimes, polygamy and the crimes against the neighbors, and were forcing officials, judges, sheriffs, to sign documents that Joseph Smith was the one responsible. And so all of the women who testified against Joseph in their journals, no. They were forced to, after the fact, if they wanted to be taken care of. They all lied. And Benjamin Franklin Johnson, I didn't do that video for you. I did it, but I didn't because it was too long. And I need to stop here pretty quick. But he claims that Joseph married his sister and gives the wrong date. But regardless of the wrong date, if we put in the right date, Joseph still was not even in the area, because the Joseph Smith papers tells us the truth of where Joseph Smith was. That's how we know that all of these claims that Joseph Smith's a polygamist are lies. The reason why is so that they can have Joseph Smith locked up for life in jail, so that Brigham can run the church. He's not supposed to. That's not how Joseph Smith designated succession. Brigham just did it because he had the military force behind him with the Danites. And so because Joseph kept getting out, even after the coup of leadership in 1838 that started the Mormon War, that got Joseph in Liberty Jail, Nelson sent me a death threat in that conference, referring to that passage, 122, is it? False friends, perilous, something like that. SOB sent me a death threat over the pulpit of conference. Can you believe that? Yep. The testimony of traitors. And if anybody else was catching on, they wouldn't have known me unless they were watching my channel, like the millions of subscribers are doing. They would have been thinking of the whistleblower for tithing, or even the James Huntsman, who tithing is not a donation. You blew your case. It's a protection racket, like criminal organizations use. And so, yeah, they used Adam on Diamond as their base of operations to perform the election fraud. All types and shadows of what was to come in the latter days. Oh gee, Senator Lee from Utah. Isn't he a direct descendant from John D. Lee on 9/11 with the Mountain Meadows Massacre? He was a Danite too, wasn't he? 1826, William Morgan. Yeah, that was 9/11. They used number codes. Today is one of those number codes, but apparently they're not acting on it. They're letting this date go by. So, yeah, that's why we have the tradition about the latter days in Adam on Diamond. That the governments are going to be handed over to the church. Now, the United States shut down the church in 1887 for their corruption and crimes, but Heber J. Grant started it back up again, as others had previously in 1822, one of those two dates. There was the FLDS church that broke off, and then Heber C. Kimball, in order to keep as many Mormons with him as possible, reincorporated the church. And of course, we don't get told this, that the church had ceased to exist on the face of the earth. They never had the priesthood authority anyway. They never wanted it. They just claimed the titles, except for translator. They still use the crimes of the Brigham Church, which was a kingdom for 1 year, until the United States pulled it out from under them in 1848, turning the territory into the United States territory, which became Utah territory. Their whole purpose now, that they can't be a militant group, that's why all the branch-offs from Brigham Young are militant, as well as polygamist, and believe in Heavenly Father as Adam, and polygamy, is now they were going to raise up wealth to have leverage over governments. And we've been watching that as the church panicked when I filed my first federal lawsuit, served the church. They then tried to sell as much stock as they could so that they can have it funneled or laundered into offshore accounts so they can flee in accordance with Section 101, verse 51 or 2? 51, I believe. And then they did it again the other week. And so because they sold their stocks this past week, people were able to buy up those stocks, fool people into thinking the economy's back on track. The stock market has nothing to do with the economy. Businesses purposely use that to manipulate the economy. oh no, we sold stocks, or our stockholders sold their stocks in our company. We're going to have to cut wages, raise prices, and lower the quality of our products. Sucks to be you guys, but we have to maintain our yachts and golfing living. So that's what they're up to. So when Nelson got up and said, "and a major city yet to be determined in Russia," what did you think he was talking about? And his 51 ballot. You guys don't study your scriptures, do you? You're unaware of Ezekiel chapter 38. Bruce R. McConkie is the one who put the chapter headings in. So the prophets know all about this. And so we as Mormons should have known what Nelson was up to when he pulled that stunt in conference, in his solemn assembly conference. The battle of Gog and Magog, the sons of Japheth, son of Ham, or son of Noah, according to the Bible, is in the Ukraine, Russia, Europe area. More so in the Ukraine, Russia area. And so the war in Ukraine. How did Bruce R. McConkie know? Like I said, the enemy used the Bible. The whole Bible. Against Israel shall usher in the second coming. Anybody watch the shorter version of the Whistleblower at least? You're not allowed to claim tax-exempt status because you're saving up for the second coming or the millennium. And you especially can't pay a foreign government to start the second coming. We all know about 2020 and how much the church profited off of a certain thing that we can find that they had also planned and prepared for. In section 45, verse 31, there shall be men standing in that generation that shall not pass away until they shall see an overflowing scourge, for a desolating sickness shall cover the land. Monkeypox, right? Dear God, we got them in Utah now. But yeah, the news was all about the church being pretty much the only one who profited, at least profited the most that first year. And then of course they had stocks in the certain vaccine companies. Isn't that amazing? But yeah, our governor here in Utah had everything all prepared for it, had a whole team ready to go, and then someone served the church with a federal lawsuit. And then the governor decided to commit crimes. And of course he got away with it. Lots of people died unnecessarily. But yeah, all the signs have been happening, guys. I've been telling you about them. My number one video is on Travis Wayne Goodsell. It's I guess I shouldn't have taken this down yet. The 21st night, September, Nephi not Moroni appeared to Joseph Smith. How we knew it was the end of the world. Da-dum, 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 LDS dates for the return to Independence, Missouri. It's not Independence, Missouri. That's the Danite cover story. Nelson told us we're not going to independence. We're not going to where Joseph told us in the 19 July 1840 document. If you're not going to do your research, you don't get a treat. I got to close anyway. It's just going to take a long time to upload. So, yeah, this is why I've been doing videos for you guys. My education, degrees, and publications make me the only one that can warn you. I've been able to correct the church history, and ex-Mormons won't believe me. I know all about Jewish mysticism, Hebrew, Egyptian, and nobody believes. So yeah, when I do my video series on Exodus patterns, you don't believe. You don't take it seriously. When I show that God is real, not Jesus, God, a higher power, because of the deaths of presidents of the church, from Brigham Young to Thomas S. Monson, falling on lunar eclipses, and Brigham Young and a couple others having solar eclipses with them. And we're in a tetrad right now. This is the tetrad. The stars, or sun darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. That's the tetrad, is what they're saying there. Tetrad technically is just lunar eclipses. And everybody missed this one, and even I did in the beginning, because November 19th was a partial. But when I realized what was actually going on, I knew, and I told you. So yeah, the church wants me dead. They sent me that little death threat. The religion is evangelical. That's why Heber J. Grant reincorporated the church as evangelical Christian. Joseph Smith is learning of the Jews, language of the Egyptians, guys. They purposely infiltrated it to overthrow it and do away with the learning of the Jews. The Jews will not replace Jesus. The white supremacy chant, because they are white supremacists. Kwaku, if you're listening, which means they hate anybody who's not white. They hate women, they hate the poor, they hate the LGBTQIAPL+. And they purposely use people as a cover. See? I have one black friend. See, I have a friend who's female. There's a Twitter group who does videos interrogating BYU co-eds about how white privileged they are. They're in the millions. They're doing a little bit better than me. We're done.